What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Road Kids Ministry Training, where our goal is to empower leaders to disciple a generation. Today, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution, which is a big topic. So let's jump right in. So in conflict resolution, one big principle that you want to be aware of, and it's kind of my rule of thumb, is never assume you understand a situation. Every situation is different. Even if it's the same offending party, every situation is different. And so always approach a situation with a goal to understand what just happened and not to assume what just happened. In so many ways, approaching child conflict resolution is no different than approaching an adult. If you were to approach an adult and say, "You did this wrong, now go sit down," that would not go over well with the adult. And it's the same for kids, especially if we don't have a great big relationship built with them. As leaders, we're not their parents. We don't have that equity. And so we have to build relationships. And so we want to approach conversations or situations rather with a heart to understand what just happened. So there's two different categories I'm going to talk about today. The first one is proactive conflict management, and the second one is active conflict management. So in proactive conflict management, basically you are trying to avoid conflict from happening. So the first thing to do is make sure you're observing the kids, that you are observing and you are engaging with the children. Be proactive in participating in the activities, in sitting with the kids. One of the big mistakes that we can make as leaders is to think that we can stand in the back and just look at the group of kids and look at who's being bad and then just go speak to them. It is so much more valuable when you are sitting with the kids, you are showing that you're on their level, and then you approach discipline from relationship and from that place of humility. So the second thing is, in proactive conflict management, make sure that you are praying for wisdom to look below the surface and to take time to get to know kids. This is the first practical step to conflict management, is that you are looking for what is below the surface. Kids want to know that you care before they want to listen to the commands or the different instructions that you give them. And so before reprimanding someone for a minor mistake, and I want to express minor mistakes, someone's talking, someone is being distracting, before addressing that with just a reprimand, you want to ask questions of the kid. There was several examples where I noticed a kid was unengaged. They were easily annoyed by other kids. And so I approached that child and said, "Hey, you seem like you're having a hard day. What's going on?" And two times that come to mind right off the bat, the child broke into tears and started expressing to me how their week was bad, or how their parents had an argument, or how, in one case, a child's parent just left the home. And so we always want to approach with a heart to understand what's going on in that child's life, because we don't know what's below the surface, and we need to ask for wisdom from God to see what is below the surface. So always be proactive in engaging with kids, not aloof, not some leader standing in the back with a hammer ready to penalize kids for talking. Those things happen, and we don't want to be so strict that we leave no room for children to actually have a good time. So that's the first, just proactive conflict management, basically preventing conflict from happening because you're being active and observing. Next is active conflict management. Something is happening and you have to step in and help. And so the first thing that I encourage is, in active situations, to, number one, ask questions of the offending child. "Hey, what just happened? Why did you hit Johnny in the nose? Why did you do, fill in the blank?" Asking them a question, because behavior is always a cause of something else. It may be something happening in their life, or it may be a cause of something that another child did. And so we want to ask questions. Then we want to affirm their emotions. Children have emotions based on what was transpiring right before we stepped in. And so we want to affirm that. If a child was talked to rudely by another child, we want them to understand that that's not okay. We want to affirm that, hey, Johnny, that is not okay what Sally said to you, and I'm going to talk to Sally about that. And then explaining the fault of the child. Johnny, I understand that Sally was mean to you and she said some very bad words, and I'm going to talk to Sally because that is not okay. However, what you did is also not okay. In a situation like this, I want you to come to me because I want to defend you. I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. So if this happens, I want you to come and grab a leader and tell them about what's going on. But hitting Jill in the nose is not an okay way to handle the situation. So really what it is it's understanding the child's perspective and then helping them manage their emotions, helping them redirect. Instead of hitting Sally in the nose, I want you to come talk to me. Redirecting the emotions that they are having. Two children may be in an active conflict. Both children at this point are in conflict with each other, and both are at fault. So what I typically do is I pull both children aside. If I'm able to talk to each child individually, that's how I prefer it. But sometimes that's just not possible because the other offending child will run away because you don't have another leader in the able to be with you in the conflict. Obviously, there's always the two leader rule. You're never in a room alone with a child, but sometimes you're the only one able to talk to a child about the conflict while other leaders are carrying out responsibilities within the room. So if you can get the other child away from each other, then great. But more times than not, I'm having this conversation with both children. What I do in this situation is I will talk to both children and I will give each child a chance to explain to me what happened. And child A starts explaining, well, I was just playing with the toy and so grabbed the toy from me. Usually it's at that point that child B wants to interrupt. No, I didn't grab that toy. You're lying, or whatever the situation. And usually what I'll do is I'll silence the child and say, hey, you will have a chance to speak, but right now it's child A, it's Jimmy's turn to speak, and I will let them finish their story. Then I will ask the other person to finish their story. Now, you're already guessing that these stories aren't going to line up, and both people are sharing very different stories, and that's okay. The purpose of doing this is allowing each child to speak and share their part of the story. If you're able to decipher what actually happened from both situations, then great. But if you're not, what I do is I point out I affirm the emotions in both child. Hey, I understand that Jill took that toy from you, and that's not okay. She should have asked before taking it. And I understand that you just wanted to play. Now speaking to the other child, you just wanted to play and you weren't meaning to offend this person by taking the toy. But what both of you guys did in response is not okay. And I'll talk to them about what they did that was wrong. And then I will expect an apology from both people and have them apologize to one another. And then I'll usually tell them to spend some time not playing together just to give them some time to cool down. Obviously, that doesn't always happen super smoothly. Trying to have conversations with children can sometimes be difficult. So you really have to use your discernment and just the wisdom of God to approach each situation. But I always find success in talking out the situation with children opposed to punishing them for their behavior right away. If there is a necessary punishment for each child, I will explain to them what that punishment is and why they are receiving that punishment. If I am concerned that it will continue, that behavior will continue, I will let them know of what they need to do moving forward so that I don't contact their parents. Hey, if this happens again, then both of you are going to have to go to your parent. Even if one or the other instigates it first, both of you will have to go to your parent, and just explaining expectations. One thing in conflict management that I use, it's a rule of thumb for me, is I use the 3-part warning. is I say, hey, this behavior that you did was not okay, and this is why. This is what I expect of you. And moving forward, this is what I want to see. This is your first warning. If I have to talk to you 2 more times, your parent is coming to pick you up. And I'll ask, do you understand? And move on from there. One thing, just in closing, a note about differences between disciplining girls versus disciplining boys. It's very interesting that in our culture, there's a lot of female educators, and what females love is face-to-face. They want to get face-to-face with their people, and they want to talk. And so if a child is not looking at the teacher right in the eyes, a lot of times we will take that as an offense, and we will say that they're not listening to us or they're not paying attention. But what's very interesting in the difference between boys and girls is that it's a lot more natural for them to desire face-to-face and to look at you in the eyes, and it's a lot more doable for them. However, with boys, men are shoulder to shoulder. And so when they have done something wrong, or when they have been in conflict with an adult or a person of authority, the natural response is to lower their head and not look eye to eye, because it's more of a respect thing. And so what I do when interacting with boys or even girls who do not want to look me in the eye, I will ask them questions to make sure that they understand. Do you understand what you did wrong? Yes, I do. Repeat to me what it is that you did wrong. Do you understand what you need to do moving forward? What do you want? What do I expect of you moving forward? And have them express that to me. If they are comfortable with looking you in the eyes, it's obviously not a rule of thumb, but it is a lot more natural for girls to do the look in the eye thing than it is for boys. So just kind of a cool tip there. Well, that's all that I have on conflict management. That's obviously not all there is on conflict management, and I hope to do more videos in the future, but I hope that this gave you some helpful tools to get started in managing conflict in our children's ministry context.